Hey, what's up, everybody? Today, you guys want to learn how to turn $1,000 into $6 million in 4 years? All right, check this out. Most people think that it's impossible to turn 1,000, just 1,000 into 6 million. But I'm going to show you through the magic of math how it is possible through the power of compound interest. So here we're into our Desmos calculator. This is what we're going to do. We're going to use the most powerful formula in all of math and finance. It's called the power of compound interest. So, do you guys all know? Remember how I told you the formula for compound interest is equal to the principal times your interest rate to the x power. This is an exponential growth function, right? This is not simple interest where you're just making the same amount of money every month, right? It's a constant, right? Simple interest is a linear equation where the line is just a straight line. It's very predictable because your slope or your interest always remains the same. But if you use the power of compound interest, I'm going to show you how your money can grow and expound on each other, where your interest is earning interest on your new amount. So let's say you start off with $1,000. This is what's called your initial value or your y-intercept. So if I start off with $1,000 and I multiply that by, let's say, 20%. Remember, if I want to grow this account by 20%, I just multiply it by 1.2, and that'll tell you your ending amount in your account. But because this is a compound interest formula, I'm going to make it to the x power. So if I put x, you'll see that the graph is going to look something like this. And let me just zoom out, change my axis. Let's just go from 0 to 12 for my time. This is going to represent time in months. All right. So I'm going to put months because I'm going to show you how to accelerate your wealth where you're not going to have to wait years, but you can do it in months. Most people think this is not possible, but through the proper education, the proper knowledge, you can actually achieve 20% per month. You guys believe that I can make 20% per month, Marcus? Check this out. This might blow your mind. So watch. Now that I have my scale to par, here you'll see that this graph represents my exponential growth function, or in other words, compound interest. So your y-intercept is right here, starting at 1,000, right? Because you can't earn interest off of $0. You need to start off with something. So I'm going to show the average investor, whether you have only $1,000, we can multiply this and grow it into 6 million in 4 years. So watch. So once you see this compound interest formula, I'm now going to create a table of values so that you can see how much money you make after a certain period of time. So for my output, my Y value, I'm going to type in the compound interest formula. So this is assuming 20% rate of growth per month, right? So if I go per month, let me just put in the exponent is going to be x to the 1, because what this does is it takes your x or your input and it's going to put it in here. So whatever your input is going to spit out your output. So here, if we start off with 0 as our input, any exponent to the 0 power is equal to 1. So 1 times 1,000 is $1,000, right? So initially, we're going to start off with 1,000. Does that make sense, Kai? Right? So you start off with $1,000. At the end of 1 month, watch. If I put in a 1 here, I'm going to have $200. But $200 added to my initial principal is going to be 1,200. Does that make sense? So I made, how much money of interest did I make after 1 year? $200, right? Because 100 plus 200 is 1,200. But now let's take it to the next year. If we were using simple interest, you would have $1,400, right? Because you're just adding 200 every month. But because this is compound interest, I'm actually going to have $1,440. Why? Where did this number come from? So instead of making $200 of interest, I'm now making $240 of interest. I just made $440 more, right? Where did I get this number from? A lot of people wonder, well, what did I do? All I did was I multiplied 1,200 times 1.20, right? 1,200 times 1.2 is 1,440. Now, because I'm compounding my interest, I'm going to multiply this by 1.2. Take out your calculator. What's 1,440 times 1.12? It gives you 1,728. So instead of making $220, now I'm actually making $262 of interest. And if I go and do this pattern and I just press the enter button, notice after 12 months, I now turned $1,000 into $8,900. That's an 800% return. But this is assuming that you make 20% per month, right? So watch. If I'm making 20% a month, you'll see if I zoom in here, this is now a curve. It's no longer a straight line. See how this curve is going up and up and up? Because your interest is earning interest on top of your initial principal. And so you're growing exponentially. So now watch. How many months are in 2 years, Noah? How many months are in 2 years? There's 12 months in 1 year. So there's 24 months in 2 years. So now look, after 2 years, I now have $80,000. Watch, after 3 years, 36 months, I have $708,000, starting with $1,000. Now let's dream a little bit. What if I say 4 years, which is 48 months? Now my $1,000 has grown to $6.3 million. Isn't that crazy? This is the power of compound interest, where you're actually growing exponentially. And what you'll see is that instead of making a constant rate of return where your slope is always the same, notice your slope is always increasing, right? This is called calculus, right? You're taking the slope and it's increasing more and more and more because your interest is getting bigger and bigger. So you're no longer just having a constant slope, but your slope is accelerating. That's how you accelerate your wealth. So now that you see the big picture of the power of 20% return a month, right? You can make 1,000 turn into 4,000 or 6,000,003. So let me just quickly show you why this occurs. Because remember, if you start off with $1,000, right? After one month, you multiply it by 1.20. That equals 1,200. If you multiply that 1,200 times 1.20, that's going to give you, let's go back to our table. That's going to give you 1,440, right? If I multiply that 1,440 times 1.20, then that is going to give me 2,073. So as you can see from this table, all I'm doing is multiplying the new account value by 1.20. And I'm just doing that again and again, all the way for each period of time. Make sense? So that is why we have an exponent up here. This is why this is an exponential function, because I'm no longer adding a constant rate of return. Now I'm actually multiplying the previous value by 1.20. So instead of multiplying it by 1.20 every time, I can do a shortcut. I can say, all right, well, what's 1,000 times 1.20, right? And instead of doing it 12 times, I could just put the exponent 12. That just means 1,000 times 1.20 times 1.20 times 1.20 12 times. Well, what would that equal? I'll prove it to you. That should equal, after 12 months, $8,916, right? Well, let's do that in our calculator. So if I pull up my calculator, right, watch. You'll see that the value actually equals that amount. So if I go 1.20, 1.20, the exponent we're going to say is to the 12th power, right? And I'm going to multiply that by 1,000. Guess what? The shortcut works. Look at this. 8,916. Well, isn't that the exact same amount? 8,916. So instead of doing this calculation longhand, I could just plug it in the calculator and it will show me how much money I will have after 12 months, right? So if I click on this dot, you'll see after 12 months, I have $8,916. And if I keep doing this, you'll see after 24 months, I have 79,000. And then if I do that again over here, you'll see after 36 months, I have $708,000, growing at a 20% rate of return every month. So most people will say, hey, Mr. Pham, well, it's impossible to do 20% a month, right? That's kind of hard, right? Most people would love to get 20% a year on their money, right? But I'm telling you how to get 20% per month. Well, Marcus, what's 20% of $1,000? $200. So if you have $1,000 and you invest it, you would get $200 a month. Is that unrealistic? That's kind of hard to do, right? To turn $1,000 to generate $200 a month. Doesn't that seem kind of unrealistic? It's kind of hard, right? $1,000 after 1 month, you made 200 bucks. But let's make it more realistic. Let's do it by weeks. How many weeks are in a month? All right. So if I divide this by 4 weeks, how much money do I need to make per week? What's 200 divided by 4? What's 200 divided by 4? That's $50 per week. Now, is that a little bit more realistic? Out of $1,000, can I generate $50 per week? Maybe. Now let's make it even more realistic. If you were to trade 5 days a week, right? Let's divide this by 5. If I divide 50 by 5, what is that, Allison? Because there's 5 days. Very good, Tony. All right. So let me ask you this now, Allison. Is this more realistic? Can I turn $1,000 and generate $10 a day? Yes, you can. Yeah, you can't see it on there because it's actually recording on this one. Can I make $10 a day from $1,000? I could, right? That's more realistic. I'll show you how. I'm going to go and say from the stock market. Let's say I bought a stock, right? And let's say I bought a stock at $10 and then I sold it at $11. How much money did I make? If I bought something at 10 and sold it for 11, how much money did I make? You made $1. You made $1. But I'm trying to make $10 a day. So how many shares do I have to buy? If that's $1 per share, if I buy 10 shares, that's going to give me a profit of $10. See that? That is how you can generate $10 of profit per day. If you can flip something for $1, you don't even have to trade stocks. You could trade Labubus, right? You buy a Labubu for 100 bucks, flip it for 110 bucks. You just made $10 a day, right? Or let's say you buy some fake Jordans. You buy some Jordans from China. They're fake, right? You buy for 20 bucks. Then you go, you flip it for like 50 bucks. You just made 20 bucks. See that? So it doesn't matter whether you're trading stock, whether you're trading Labubus, whether you're trading Pokemon cards. If you can flip your investment to make $10 a day from $1,000, you're making 20% return a month. Because look, $10 profit a day times 20 days, that gives you $200 of profit a month. See that? So now $200 profit a month is equal to 20% return off of your $1,000. This makes it very achievable. But let me take it one step further. Remember, knowledge is power, right? Knowledge earns the best interest, right? So let's say this. What if I told you that you could actually sell options where you have an 80% probability of success? So what if I told you there was a strategy where you could bet on a stock staying within $50 to $60? I'm not guessing direction. I'm just saying, you know what? In the next day or the next month, if this stock just stays between $50 and $60, I'm going to make money. So I'm going to show you a strategy that's going to be right 80% of the time. Mathematically, you are going to be right 80% of the time, because math and options is nothing more than a math equation. Building wealth is nothing more than a formula, right? The formula is compound interest formula. And if you take it one step further, if you're right 80% of the time and you place 10 trades, I'm going to show you, all you have to do is place 10 trades a month. How many winners are you going to have if you have 10 trades and you're right 80% of the time? Yep, you're going to have 8 winners, right? Because you place 10 trades, you're going to have 8 winners. How many losers are you going to have? 2 losers. Very good. So watch. Look at how the math works out. If I make $100 for every time I'm right, 8 times 100 is what? I'm going to make a total of $800 of profit, right? But every time I'm wrong, I'm going to lose $300. So if I'm wrong 2 times and I lose $300, how much did I lose? I just lost $600, but I made $800 on the 8 times that I was right. My net profit is $200 of net profit after my winners take away my losers. Well, isn't that what I was trying to achieve to begin with, was $800 of profit? It was, right? So, or $200 of profit, that is a 20% return on my $1,000. And you can do this with options with as little as $1,000. So watch, let me show you how we do this. So if I say, if I told you that you could sell something, here, let's say you place 10 trades, right? 10 trades in 1 month, right? How many trades is that a week, right? So let's say there's 4 weeks in a month. You have week number 1, week number 2, week number 3, week number 4. Let's say you place 2 trades first week, 2 trades the second week, 2 trades the fourth week, and then the last week you would have to place maybe 4 trades, right? And these could be day trades. So, right? So if I place in 4 trades, that's maybe 1 trade a day in the last week. Every time I place a trade, my expectancy is going to be, this is how you calculate your expectancy. 80% of my trades is 0.80. I take 80%, I expect to make how much? $100. All right? Minus 20% of my expectancy, how much do I lose on my 20% losers? I'm going to lose $300, right? From the formula that we just did earlier. So now let's calculate that. Let's make this, what's 0.8 times 100? 80% of 100 is $80, right? So I can expect $80 per profit What's my losing? Well, 20% of 300 is $60. So if I subtract 80 minus 60, I can expect to make $20 per trade, right? Accounting for my losing trades. Remember, a professional trader always has to account for their losing trades. No trader is going to be right 100% of the time. But if you put the math on your side, where you put the probabilities on your side, this is what your positive expectancy can be. Whereas when you're gambling, you know, when you gamble and you bet on sports or you bet on casino games, you know, the gambler always has a negative expectancy. Like if they play over time, they're expected to lose. Why? Because they have less than a 50% probability of making money. Plus, you have to pay the juice. What if I told you I can teach you an options trading strategy where you collect the juice? Your edge is time and volatility and fear. You're going to sell inflated options because basically what I'm teaching you is how to sell insurance on stock, because that's basically what selling premium is. You're selling insurance on stock. So if you're making 20 bucks every expected trade, well, if you place 2 trades, you're going to expect to make 40 bucks. If you place 2 trades your second week, you're going to expect to make another 40 bucks. If you place another 2 trades the third week, you're going to expect to make another 40 bucks. But now 20 times 4, you're going to expect to make $80 out of 4 trades. You add all that together, you're going to make $200. That's how you calculate what you expect to make after 10 trades. So every month you're going to make 200 bucks. That is 20%. That's how you make 200 bucks the first month. Now, you take this account, you have $1,440. Now you're going to try to make 20% off of that. Well, 20% off of 1,440 is, let's calculate that. What is 20% off of 1,440? Times that by 0.20. You're expected to make $288. So now we have to just scale ourselves up, right? So now we have 14. Whoops. Now we're expected to make $288. How do you do that? So in order to make $288 of profit the second month, right? Now we're going to place 10 trades. But instead of making $100 per trade, now we're going to say expect to make $120 times 8 winners, right? So all you do is you increase your profit and then your losses also increase. But in the end, you're going to make 20% off of this new amount. And then you make 20% off of this new amount. And then you make 20% off of this new amount. So that is how you grow your wealth and how you accelerate it. Because in the end, all we're doing is we're selling premium, right? And if you can just sell enough premiums to offset your losses, that's what insurance companies do. All the richest companies in the world, all they do is sell policies. And then they take the profits from their premiums, pay off the few accidents, and they're still net profitable. So hopefully you guys learned how math and money tie together and how the markets allow you to be that vehicle to accelerate your wealth. So if you want to learn strategies that give you a high probability of success, make sure you guys subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll show you how to create high probability trading strategies where you're the casino. You're no longer the gambler. And I'll teach you how to take the gambling out of trading, because in the end, we are our own worst enemies because our emotions get in the way. But if I put you in a high probability situation where you're going to make a little bit of money consistently, this is how you compound your money. You do it consistently with small, achievable goals. And that is your path to building wealth in the markets. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.